Hello traders, Gary Wagner here, just about 9:30 in Honolulu, 3:30 in New York on Friday. Happy Aloha Friday, as we say on the islands, 22nd day of May, 2015, and this is the daily report for gold and silver, our weekend review, and what a week we've seen. Markets closing dramatically lower on the week, so to speak. We're trading roughly at 1205, 1204 in that area, and if you recall, the market was as high as about 1230 plus at the beginning of the week. In terms of today, quiet activity up about $1 on the day. Still holding above 1200 though, 1201 being the low, high being 1214.60, well away from the high, actually closer to the low. Silver's trading off about a nickel on the day. It has had a low of 16.94 and a high of 17.33. So what are we looking for in terms of activity next week? Well, we're looking at a very, very short-term chart to start the show off this morning for our weekend review. And on this chart, we have the MACD, we have a momentum index, we also have Japanese average charts. They are 4 hours in length, along with an Elliott wave, a standard Elliott wave count. So first, we can see when we look at the MACD, this market has come down substantially as it's come down off of these highs roughly at 1230, as we talked about just a few seconds ago. And since then, it has moved down. You can see that it does appear as though we've got the beginning of a cross coming into this market in terms of the MACD lines. However, on closer review, and what I've done is gone ahead and blown this particular chart up, you can see that it began to cross. The market comes in, you've got it coming right up to this line, but it's that false positive, so it has turned lower. So we really would need to see this cross here to get confirmation in terms of the MACD. When we look at the momentum index, you can see that this is where the market sold off a lot, but it is still in negative territory, although there's no doubt it has come up quite a bit from these lows right here, which were at about a -20. And then finally, we'll look at the chart itself. And what you see here in terms of a short-term Elliott wave count, again, realize very, very short-term because we're only looking at 240, but it has been a bull count, 1, 2, a long 3, and the anticipation or the termination of this fourth wave, short-term fourth wave, looks at a couple of different areas that the market could go to. This is one of those areas which we've actually taken out. However, if we see this market move a little bit lower, the level that we're going to look for is going to be just below 1200, because at that point we should see a termination in this downward trend short term again, and then begin to move back up. And so when you put all of these studies all together, it shows us that there is the distinct possibility that we will see the market find some support. Now realize we've got Memorial Day, so we have a shortened trading week next week, but nonetheless, this is how we are viewing the market as of right now, short term. So the next chart that we do want to look at, this is our daily chart. Similar type of account, top of 3 right here. It hasn't completed 4 yet on this particular chart. We could have a little bit more downside. However, you will notice that we are definitively within this area where we would look for support to come into the market. So traders, we're looking at our weekly chart, and you can absolutely see how this market has come down this week. There's another potential pattern, not a candlestick pattern, but a standard Western technical indicator that we certainly could be looking at. And what that would be some sort of a head and shoulders. And if what we are going to truly see, of course, this is much more long term, but if we're truly seeing the development of some sort of a head and shoulders, that could signal, in fact, this market breaking and breaking below some of these recent lows down here. So we'll have to see, because that also lines up with our longer term Elliott wave count. So traders, what about some of the other markets that influence the precious metals markets? And what are we looking at? First of all, this is crude oil. Weekly chart, we did have the market lower this week. We had really a top come into the market roughly in this area at about 62, but I draw your attention to what we've been looking at over the last 3 weeks. And what we've seen really over the last 3 weeks are we now have triple dojis, in other words, 3 weeks in time where we've made dramatically higher highs or dramatically lower lows and closed roughly at the point in which they opened. And more importantly, that $60 benchmark has been roughly where it's closed over the last 3 weeks. So to me, that's pretty significant. A 21% retracement level falls near the lows at around 56, 57 of what we have seen. So it falls near the lows. And the question is, will we see consolidation and support and then a clip up? Or are we looking at a market that's fairly top heavy and will begin to trade lower? And really, to give us some insight, I'll bring in some Elliott wave studies on this particular market, meaning crude oil. And when we look at it, we're definitely in a bear count. Waves 1, wave 2, long wave 3, and it does appear as though there's a high potential that we have completed wave 4 at this point. And if that's the case, we would see not only lower pricing, but our fifth wave by necessity of the actual study itself, meaning that wave 5 should trade below wave 3. We could in fact see lower oil prices or dipping back near those 40s. That would be good for a lot of things. I believe low oil means a robust economy, except for the oil sector, of course. But I think that transportation, all the other things that are done with oil really will trigger an incredible move to the upside in the equities as well as the economies in general. So we'll have to see if it pans out that way, but that's what these studies show us in terms of crude oil. So traders, of course, the real story throughout this week, throughout the last couple of months, has been the dollar. Daily chart dollar index, absolutely no doubt. When we look at this particular market, you can see a resurgence through this week. In fact, when we look at the weekly charts, it's a dynamic move indeed. MACD absolutely crossed. That's signaling higher pricing. Stochastics on this particular chart has moved to oversold and now crossed. So that's signaling a buy. And we can see in terms of any kind of a candlestick pattern, a case can be made for a three-river morning star variation. And the reason it's a variation, you have got these two small-bodied candles. That this one kind of gaps below it a little bit. But the key is it is a variation off of that pattern. And this is what I meant. Take a look at our weekly chart. And when we look at this weekly chart, look at the dynamic move that the dollar exhibited this week as it bounced off this low at about 93. Of course, we labeled basic support that should hold at around 94, and it was based upon these bottoms here. You have this extreme low here, and that extreme low here is just above these lows right in here. However, this is a dynamic move. If we get any kind of follow through, of course, we could see this dollar steamroll next week. And if we do that, that would really change our consensus in terms of where we think the precious metals are going. In essence, I'm looking for a potential bounce early in the week, but longer term, I am bearish on both gold and silver longer term in the marketplace itself. Traders, we're looking at the E-mini, and there's no doubt the big news over the last week or so is these former tops that we had roughly at 21.21. I'm got gold on my mind, obviously. 21.21 to 21.23 in that area. No doubt we took those out this week, and we took them out with a vengeance. We are trading lower on the day. S&P's off about 3 points, 21.24 right in that area. But we do have new highs in the market. We will close on those new highs, I believe. And we definitely are in this upward channel. So I am looking for higher pricing in the equities market, specifically the S&P, as well as the mini NASDAQ contract also. I would look for higher pricing next week in that. So what about silver? Well, there's no doubt we've seen a slight decoupling of silver and gold prices In terms of our aggressive Elliott wave count, we could go a little bit lower here, but it looks as though we've finished. We've got a 1, 2, 3. This would be wave 4, and wave 5 would be up. Another study that we can look at is to just look at some basic channel lines. And although we are at the lows, we are staying within this upward channel line. And we talked about this midweek that gold's channel has been down while silver has been slightly higher. However, I draw your attention to our MACD, which looks as though it will appear to cross. You do get false positives. For example, on the way down, it appeared to cross, but then just crossed back down. Here you had some wavering. Here you had the potential for false positives, false positive here. So really, until we see this market beginning to trade next week, we can't determine if, in fact, we will see this cross like this and move to the downside. So we take this slight channel, realizing that it has to hold above this particular area. As you know, we will be launching our new expansion. That will be the first week of next month, so it's coming up quicker and quicker. And the markets that we'll be covering and trading will be the E-mini S&P, the NASDAQ, the currencies, the dollar, the euro dollar, British pound, Japanese yen. When the studies point to a potential breakout, we'll also be looking at gold and silver in the gold forecast as always. But I want to be able to provide you, the subscriber, with trading opportunities. And quite honestly, it's been a very, very hard market when we look at gold because it's been trapped within this range over the last months. So for those that want information or want to be put on the list for advanced enrollment, so to speak, simply email me, Gary@thegoldforecast.com, and we will put you on our list and then send you out the appropriate link when we launch that and it's time to enroll. And of course, the price is drastically reduced for all members of the Gold Forecast. Have a great weekend. For those in the mainland, North America, have a great Memorial Day. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.